So I'm Matt,
Blake.
and this is our final presentation for the WCCC website. How did you develop a specification? Well, after first getting in contact with one of the board members, Jesse, on Facebook, talking to him about the project, we weren't actually able to meet with our client for a whole month. So initially, our whole way of gauging what was going to be required for the project was by looking at the old page and deciding what we wanted to keep and things we thought we could improve. Their old site was just a blogspot page, so luckily there was a lot of clear room for improvement, and we were able to get started sort of seeing what we wanted to add. We wanted to keep the blog posts that were on the site. Of course, we felt like that was something important for them to have, and something that they later mentioned, of course, that they wanted to keep as well. And the board member information, just listing the members of the board and their titles as well. We also wanted to improve the design and page clutter. With the Blogspot page, there was a lot of, it was really confusing to get on the page. It didn't have like a clear sense of navigation or anything like that. And there was just a lot of clutter with all of the blog posts on it at once. So that was something we definitely wanted to improve and make sure the website looked really nice. And we wanted to make sure that ways to get involved were as clear as possible, especially with a nonprofit that relies heavily on donation and community involvement. Their old page lacked a lot in this area. So we wanted to make ways to get involved extremely clear and one of the first things that people see when they get to the website.
So when we were finally able to meet with them, we had a really awesome meeting. We pitched some of these ideas that we came up with when we looked at their old page, and they loved all our ideas. And they also had a lot of ideas that we didn't even think of. After the meeting finished, we left with a clear picture of what they wanted and what we needed to do. And yeah, it was a really good meeting.
So we felt like the nature of the product they wanted dictated our means of designing. We wanted to work with a framework that would allow them ease of access for website management without us, so being able to add blog posts, add images, create, update, and delete functionality on all things they wanted to change, like board members and stuff like that. So adding database entities that reflected this functionality was among top priority. So that decision was sort of already made for us. And we chose to go with Laravel because with very few commands, we got a lot of structure out of the box.
So this is just a basic structural overview, and it kind of shows how everything we created on the site could become a model. All these things we're still integrating because they just sent us the information for it, like the guide services and meeting minutes, but luckily we can just do the same exact thing that we've done before and create a model for it, some way for them to interact with it, and create a new one, delete it, update it, things like that. And that also goes for just basic elements on the site. So if they want to change the structural elements of the site, not just the board member or the post, they can do that as well. And that's something Laravel allowed us to do easily. We could just do the same process for each one of these, build a route, build a controller, and hook it up to the model and display it on the page.
That was one of the things they mentioned in that first meeting, was just about how the thing they most liked, they liked most about the Blogspot was being able to just be able to have so much control over their content. So that was something that I didn't initially think about going into the meeting, is how much control they'd want and being able to add, change and delete stuff like that. So this model became pretty important to the design. We tested our solution with PHP Unit and also using a new testing framework called Laravel Dusk, which is an automatic browser tester and tests your API automatically. Our user testing with the client, though, was the most constructive. We had a meeting roughly 2 weeks before the student showcase, and we're able to show a couple members of the board the site and just sort of have them navigate through it. And we were able to just get direct feedback from them on different features that were there, what worked and what didn't work, and also some new ideas, including those meeting minutes and those guide services. And after we got those ideas, I think the website, as far as the whole idea of all the content, sort of came together and felt a little bit more complete after that meeting. So that user testing session was pretty valuable. So as for our individual contributions, I worked mostly on the graphic design and front end of the website. So that's everything from the homepage to designing the carousel, running into things like having to dynamically display stuff from the database. So looping through the structures like the members of the board or the post or anything like that, and trying to make it display in a way that would look good on the website.
And I just worked on the back end kind of database management. So I'd take one of these models and create it and see what was required for it, do a migration, update our database, create a route that would hit it and all the functions in the controller. And and then I also kind of created the forms on the front end that actually entered new data into the model and things like that.
So as far as choices for the design, we chose the design to be of the site to be similar to most nonprofit organizations. Before that first meeting, we did just a little bit of reading to see, what kind of effective aspects of design can be used to help a nonprofit, and that just includes a lot of large relevant images being shown on the website, messages of the coalition or the organization, and clear ways to get involved. And we wanted all those to be prominent features of the design. So we took a look at a couple of different similar nonprofits like the Access Fund or any other nonprofit, and that's sort of just what we saw, just a lot of relevant images, clear ways to get involved and that kind of stuff. So we tried to keep the design simple as well, as their old site was much too overwhelming, or their old page, I should say, just including all those blog posts on one page, like I said, was just really overwhelming and hard to look at. So we felt like a simple design would be more effective for their message. And we also took a lot of great ideas from the coalition about what they wanted, where they wanted certain information. Initially, we sort of just wanted the 3 tabs that was like home, about, archive, and maybe contact us or something like that. But through the first and second meetings that we had, as well as email exchanges with the head of the coalition, they sort of gave us a clear sense of the navigation for the pages, where they wanted certain information and stuff like that. So kind of reduce the clutter that way as well. So I really hadn't done any web development before this, so it was pretty much a totally new experience for me. I knew about Bootstrap and what it did. I knew a little bit about PHP as well, but I never really used either hands-on. I knew pretty basic, pretty elementary HTML and CSS stuff, so being able to work with this was pretty new. I learned a lot about the Laravel stack, PHP, model view controllers, and the front end web development in general. And not only just how to implement it, but just sort of making certain design choices that make sense for the site. And having to design for mobile devices and making the site responsive as well. Using Bootstrap was really instructive for me. Another important thing I learned is the ability to adapt to the needs of the client. I think going into the first meeting and the second meetings and stuff like that, I may have had initial ideas that I wanted to push forward, but realizing that we're making a product for a client and we have to respect their needs and what they want. So for all the things that I've built at CMU in getting my degree, it's always been for myself or just sort of for a project. I've never really had to integrate somebody else's ideas into a project. So getting exposure to the process of adapting to their ideas and disregarding ideas of my own was extremely helpful. And I think it's more of a real world idea. And I think of it as pretty valuable information.
For me, the first thing I learned was just like the Laravel stack specifically. So I've used these MVC frameworks in the past, and I think I have a really good understanding of the kind of separated presentation pattern. But with Laravel, it's just learning like the specific structure of the folders, the Eloquent ORM, and things like that. But other than that, it was mostly familiar to me. Another thing I learned is also working with clients and turning their vision into a technical model. So actually not trying to create something from scratch on my own. It was something that's a real model, and we had to implement that. And lastly, what makes a nonprofit successful and what kind of designs will influence their impact and increase donations. So really a lot of research, didn't go into Laravel as much. That was something I'm used to researching and figuring out, but the nonprofit stuff was really valuable to learn, and it was kind of like the domain knowledge that we had to learn to actually get this up and running.
I think overall we developed a really good relationship between us and the client as well. So it was just a really cool overall experience. They shared a lot of the same interests we did, and it was just really cool to be able to talk to them and to learn from them and also make something for them. So yeah.